is charged with manslaughter. Can he get off? We'll discover at 2:40.
Of England, some of the best sunshine to be found there. But we're going to get a little bit of sleet and snow lying, perhaps of about 1,000 feet or so. But clearer skies following on behind. It could well turn frosty once again over the northern half of Britain later on tonight. At the same time, with clear skies down in the south, there could be a touch of frost as well, with further wintry showers feeding in down that North Sea coast. Well, tomorrow another bitterly cold day once again. Temperatures only about 9 or 10 degrees, only just the 50-degree Fahrenheit mark. Nice bright start over the north end, lots of sunshine to come there, but thicker cloud as you move southwards. Still some patchy rain, still some patchy sleet around, with further wintry showers coming right down into Norfolk. Now during the course of the afternoon you will find that brighter weather gradually feeding southwards, that thicker cloud leaving the south coast of England during the afternoon. Then on Monday, plenty of dry, bright weather, but outbreaks of rain and sleet out in the west. And that's it from me.
If you care what you watch and what you read, get the Radio Times. Off the wall and on the case, John Sessions in Duke City. And caught in the act, Elaine Page.
I'm live in concert, I'm on BBC1, and I'm in the Radio Times.
A talent to amuse, the many faces of Robin Williams say, "Good evening, Mr. Wogan." And the poetry of protest, actor Jeremy Irons on Heathcote Williams' epic warning about the menace in our midst, the motor car. The Radio Times is packed with all-channel information and is so easy to use that even with the busiest of lifestyles, you're sure to catch the best in TV and radio. The Radio Times, it's essential reading.
Michael Winner's 1978 remake of Raymond Chandler's tough tale of sex and murder, The Big Sleep, is our star-studded film beginning in 45 minutes. After BBC1's star-studded, with no expense spared, Saturday Night Clive.
The greatest adventure that people can have. Comprehensively.
I believe you. No, I was just going to do criminally irresponsible.
Watch and learn.
Welcome once again to the only television program that reaches through the time zones into space, making tomorrow look like yesterday and turning today into a million glittering fragments. But first, the new broadcasting franchises. We are pleased to announce that this program, funded by a consortium of Senator Edward Kennedy, Imelda Marcos and the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, has successfully retained its franchise, despite the bids of several rivals who made the mistake of offering too much money or programs of higher quality or both. It was Mrs. Margaret Thatcher whose brilliant foresight led to this latest round of franchise bids, and earlier today we asked her how she would describe the service that this program provides.
Poppycock.
Thank you, Mrs. Thatcher. But first, in a week when top fashion models are said to charge too much, their cut-price replacements on the catwalk tell us we do our own hair, too. In a week when Warren Beatty is quoted as being a one-woman man, Warren issues a correction, I meant one every 20 minutes. In a week when Prince Philip is offered a sexual device by an African witch doctor, the witch doctor says, he told me to stick it in my ear. In a week when doctors are told not to prescribe baked beans on the National Health, Captain Mark Phillips says, it's too late for me. And now, the world news headlines. Typical British family copes with recession. Leader of impoverished third world country meets President Kaunda. 6 English women accuse royal figure of sexual harassment. Foreign Secretary's teeth found at last. Recycling campaign reaches new intensity. And now, the world news in depth. Politics. And the new style, decisive Neil Kinnock was impressively on display this week when he was asked whether socialism still had a place in the modern Labour Party. A question to which the old style, indecisive Neil Kinnock had previously sometimes said yes and sometimes said no. The new style, decisive Neil Kinnock, knew exactly how to answer the question.
The answer that everybody gives to that, and it's the only answer that can be given, is to refuse to give a yes or a no.
British Rail's higher fares, fewer trains policy for a triumphant climb back to profitability was underlined this week when it was revealed that the new super high-speed train is no longer spilling hot coffee into the laps of all its passengers. It is now spilling hot coffee into the laps only of its second-class passengers. Our cameras were there this afternoon when the new super high-speed train broke all previous records on a run between Reading and not very far outside Reading. As the super high-speed train streaked along at anything up to 14 miles an hour between groups of men in day-glow jackets eating pork pies, passengers in the specially sprung first-class compartments enjoyed steaming cups of British Rail rich roast freshly ground coffee-taste coffee with no threat to their pinstripe suits or Harvey Nichols black watch tartan skirts. In the non-sprung second-class compartments, passengers were invisible to our camera because they were all lying in the aisle writhing with pain as the British Rail travellers' froth decaffeinated caffeine scorched its way through their Tesco Y-fronts and British Home Stores knickers. The guard on the public address system announced, "Don't forget to take all your personal belongings with you to the Burns unit." The White House was in turmoil this week when the news leaked out that a rat was loose in the grounds, having been spotted in a swimming pool with Barbara Bush. Experts warned that this was a special breed of highly intelligent, satirically minded rodent, which enjoyed relieving itself on the shoes of officials of cabinet rank and above. Our cameras were there during an outdoor press conference given by President Bush on the worrying state of collective security in the Western Hemisphere when the urinating rat menace reached a climax.
I'm very worried about it. And here's a whole hemisphere that... Whoops.
A full-scale search was then mounted for the urinating White House rat. The president himself took charge of a crack Secret Service team which searched the undergrowth for the impertinently piddling pest. But it was to our camera team that the contemptuous rat finally overplayed its hand. Architecture. And the big news of the year is that Prince Charles has given the go-ahead for his ideal new village, which will respect the environment and revive traditional standards of rural community life. To attract Japanese sponsorship, a commercial for the new village has already been prepared by the Prince's private office, and we've been granted a privileged early glimpse. This is the stretch of unspoiled countryside in which the new environmentally friendly village of Great Wittering under Charlesbury will be sited once the ground has been levelled with a tactical nuclear weapon. Here will stand ye ancient betting shop for Grandma ye Queen Mother, with a little tea cosy over the computer link to Newmarket. Here will stand ye ancient Princess of Wales disco, featuring guest appearances by gnarled old Rod Stewart, singing Do Ye Think I'm Sexy? In ye ancient Duchess of York's old cake shop, there will be two kinds of cakes, one for eating and one for throwing. The cultural hub of Great Wittering under Charlesbury will be ye ancient Prince Edward theatrical tea shop, in which Prince Edward himself will serve tea, accompanied by a 140-piece orchestra conducted by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber dressed as a gnome. Although the village will seem to dwell in a remote corner of the untroubled past, its future residents will be able to get to it in only 3 hours from Waterloo Station, unless they travel by train, in which case it will take 3 days. Africa is in the news. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were there this week, and Prime Minister Major is there now. But the biggest news in Africa remains South Africa. Now that apartheid is officially over, how much has South Africa changed, if at all? One of the people who did his bit to help bury apartheid was South Africa's political satirist Peter Ustinov. His weapon was mockery. But has he stopped mocking now that things are theoretically better? Let's find out as we go by satellite to Johannesburg and hear from the man himself. Can you hear me, Peter Ustinov?
Yes, indeed, I can. Hello, Clive.
Peter, last time I talked to you, apartheid was still very much in force, and now it isn't. How much has South Africa changed?
Yes, well, apartheid was in force here, and Mrs. Thatcher was in force there. A tremendous amount has changed. It is now legal to be illegal. I think the biggest change is the fact that Mr. Nelson Mandela is free. When he was in jail, it was illegal to wear a Free Mandela T-shirt. In fact, it was illegal for you to watch me wear a Free Mandela T-shirt. We would have both gone to jail because P.W. Botha called that guilt by association. So now Nelson is free, and there are warehouses all over the world filled with millions of pounds worth of T-shirts all saying Free Mandela. Thank heavens for Mrs. Mandela. They say if she goes to prison because of assault, then at least Nelson can wear a Free Mandela T-shirt legally. Then, of course, communism is also legal, now after 40 years of being the great Satan. So I think South Africa is quite unique in the world. We have a communist party with plans for the future. And then again, everybody is now allowed to live where they like. There's no more Group Areas Act. So I think in the new South Africa, we don't classify people according to the color of their skin, but the color of their money.
What are the main teething troubles for the new South Africa, in your view?
Because there are 6 million out-of-work people in the country, because of various reasons, like sanctions being one of them, there's a huge crime increase, up to 300%. So Johannesburg has become a fortress. The walls get higher. There are a tremendous amount of security guards employed, more security guards than, in fact, government policemen, lots of dogs. In fact, the right-wing conservatives have got a new brand of dog. They've imported your pit bulls from England and crossed them with the hyenas, so now when they bite burglars, they laugh at the same time. And so when the sun sets over beautiful Johannesburg at night, you don't hear the sound of birds or children playing. You hear the sound of chains as people chain their cars to their ankles, and their ankles to the gate, and the gate to the dog, and the dog to the policeman. And it is very much a fortress mentality. We've got to live through that. It can't be solved in 10 minutes, but a sense of humor, I think, helps everybody. It took us a long time, many years and many lives, to fight the British Empire, and we got rid of the Commonwealth in 1961 when we became a republic. But the royal family is very popular here. We Afrikaners love specific Broadcasting Corporation referred to her as Queen Elizabeth XI, and of course to her husband as the Duck of Edinburgh. Well, John Major is now in Harare at the Commonwealth Conference this week, where he spoke to Nelson Mandela. I think they've been talking about various things, including a plea to bring South Africa back into world cricket. So it's nice to know that apartheid might be wicked, but cricket is cricket.
How is the dynamic figure of John Major regarded in South Africa?
Well, for a long time we thought Major was his rank. Margaret Thatcher made such a great impression on us as a leader that it took a long time for people to understand that there was another person in number 10. Every time we saw this grey-haired, grey man come out of number 10 Downing Street and talk to the reporters, one thought it was the doorman. I mean, he's a terribly friendly, sweet-looking man. And who could believe that the Brits could allow a coup d'etat to happen? I mean, that's so banana republic. It's so strange.
Mrs. Thatcher, in her new role as ex-Prime Minister, was down there recently. How is she thought of now?
Oh, she was here as the deposed monarch of the world. She was here in May, and it was terribly exciting. I mean, South African newspapers were full of it. The South African government was thrilled. She was here on an unofficial state visit. Minister Botha gave her a flower. They named a fruit after her. I mean, that was an extraordinary thing. A sort of a tiny little thing with lots of hair on it, and I think it had a prickly pear type of thing. They couldn't find a real one, so they gave her a plastic one, but they called it something like Quince Margaret. And she watched lovely little black children dance for her, and she announced to the world that they had rhythm, which I thought was extremely incisive. And she got an honorary degree, which I think is one way of getting John Major here. Then she also visited various people, and there were some demonstrations against her. Black people did demonstrate. There was one man with a sign that said, "Dennis, take away your menace." A domestic servant in Johannesburg was terribly upset when she found out that Margaret Thatcher was white, because she'd heard that Margaret Thatcher was called the ironing lady. So if she wants political asylum, there's always a good job for her here.
Peter, it's been fascinating talking to you in this period of great historical change in your country. Keep on the lookout for us. Thank you very much, Peter Dirk-Ace.
Thank you.
Every country in the world has television shows for the talentless, but in most countries they are called talent shows. In Italy, nobody bothers to pretend. The contestants do their excruciating numbers, the audience whistles and stamps, and everyone goes home happy. The current top Italian no-talent show experience occurs as a segment of the Saturday night marathon variety spectacular with the meaningless name Audiennes. The show begins with the unobtrusive host on the left conducting the guests as they sing all together, and they sound a lot better doing that than singing separately, as the studio audience is about to discover.
Io son sicuro che per ogni goccia che cadrà un nuovo fiore nascerà.
He sings of love and how for every raindrop a flower is born, to which a butterfly comes and then dies in agony. The next act is a mother and daughter combination. The mother's accordion playing is outdone only by the daughter's mastery of the xylophone. But that is not all they do. The daughter is a trained exotic dancer. She did a postal degree with the Romanian Academy of Alluring Arts and Machine Tool Installation. During the day, the daughter drives a cement lorry and the mother loads it. What does she do during the day? She's the Pope's confidential secretary. As the pace increases to a frenzy, viewers are wondering if anything worse can happen. Of course it can. Climax is Italy's answer to Sue Pollard, Susanna Pollardi. Before stardom beckoned, Susanna used to run the Roman equivalent of Meals on Wheels, I Mealy Stully Wheelie. With the rich field whittled down to 2 finalists, the host invites the audience to choose by pelting them with rubber bricks. Then it's time for the Rome chapter of the Italian Feminist League to come rushing on and stage a demonstration about their working conditions. The winner has emerged. Guess who it is? After a quick change of costume, she's into her finale. She's currently enjoying her prize, a trip to South America and a complete change of identity. And now, zoology. Do you remember Skippy the kangaroo? Unless you're a kangaroo over the age of 40, chances are you don't. But 25 years ago, Australian-born Skippy was the biggest television star in the world, partly because of his uncanny ability to communicate with his human friends, and partly because he was dead cuddly.
That's what she wants to take a picture of. Those swans. You wouldn't think it was worth the effort, would you, Skip?
Can't we get closer?
You'll frighten them away.
Oh, well, I'm using a telephoto lens.
Hurry up. It'll be gone in a minute.
Stop pestering me.
Was then, but now, after more than 20 years in retirement, writing his memoirs, Skippy is coming back to the international television screen. This time his pal Sonny has grown up and looks like an entirely different actor. But Skippy has hardly changed a bit. Both Skippy and Sonny, otherwise known as Andrew Clark, are standing by, ready to talk to us by satellite from Skippy's home base in Brisbane. Can you hear me, Andrew Clark?
I can, loud and clear, Clive. How are you?
I'm fine, and I must say you and Skippy are looking wonderful. It's great to see you both. Where's Skippy been all these years?
She was presently starring, well, was, I should say, starring in a show over here and where they had her contracted to appear as a topless waitress. Skippy robbed banks. She robbed gambling establishments. I mean, the poor old Skippy has fallen on hard times, but fortunately her career has been resurrected. Her contract has improved, and she's only too happy to be back in front of the camera.
And she's magically looking much younger, too. It's extraordinary what makeup can do.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, you know, she's, you know, like Cher. She's onto these newfound sort of, you know, steroids and such.
Andrew, I'm stunned to hear you calling Skippy she. I was always under the impression that Skippy was a boy.
No, Skippy is a she. However, during the process of shooting, I mean, we do have various stand-ins. Now, some of these stand-ins are males, and the males happen to be very amorous at times, and for various, due to that, you'll probably see various occasions where the kangaroo is only shot from the waist up. The rest of the time, it's all female.
I mean, you're telling us that when a boy kangaroo is feeling amorous, it sort of shows, does it?
It certainly does. And they've got big ones, I can tell you.
Well, we've just seen a clip from Skippy's first glory days in 1968. Is that the same kangaroo?
No, actually, Skippy, the Skippy we're working with at the moment is the daughter of the daughter of the daughter of.
The boy in the first series was Sonny, and now you're grown up. What sort of a guy has Sonny grown up into?
Well, you know, I still wear the same T-shirts. No, I mean, this is I don't know if you can see it, but this is sort of roughly the kind of gear that I wear now. We're at, we've changed our location, and we're at this place called Habitat now, which is on the Gold Coast. The whole location's changed, which is great, I might add, because I'm having a wow of a time up here. Clive, you must know the Gold Coast and the casinos and the beaches and the girls and everything. So, you know, I couldn't ask for a better spot to shoot the show.
You mean Sonny goes in for that sort of thing? I'm stunned.
No, Skippy does.
Andrew, how did you choose the new Skippy?
Well, Clive, I mean, like any actress, she had to go through an audition process. So we sort of collected a mob of them from up north of Australia and herded them down here. Then we gave them the old Skippy format. We sort of stuck them in a truck blindfolded and told them to sort of drive down the freeway and back. Threw them in a pool and see who was the quickest to do the 100-metre sprint. Marathon efforts and Ironman events, bicycle riding and such.
How long can you rely on the average kangaroo to stand still?
Well, long enough to get a good shot at. Reluctant to scratch about a minute out of it. But I mean, initially it was probably just sort of 10, 20 seconds. But she's improving all the time.
What does it take to get her to stay in one place even for that long?
Oh, a nice piece of apple, Clive. We have resorted to holding a gun at her head, and that does it.
Andrew, you certainly seem to have a special warm rapport with Skippy. Are you an animal lover?
How do you ascertain that? From this little thing? This is just a stuffed model. We're working this with electronic little devices. You watch this, it'll move now. It's dead. Right.
Have you ever eaten kangaroo?
Clive, how dare you ask such a question? I had a very, very hard day on set today. The kangaroo misbehaved badly. I haven't had dinner yet. Say goodbye, Skippy.
Andrew, we have to go. I know you and Skippy have got a long future together. Thank you very much, Andrew Clark.
Until tonight. Bye, Clive.
And now it's time for our unique BBC commercial break, a feature designed to raise tax revenue to maintain the National Health Service at its present level of caring efficiency by providing beds in the street for people growing old as they queue for operations to keep them young. In America, they say home when we say house. Home to an American is the heart of freedom. It is also the target of all advertisers who know that the best way into the home is through the television aerial.
Putting off buying that one piece of furniture you really need?
Fine.
Announcing Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event.
Now, Buster, get.
Everything you need for your home for no money down, no interest, and no payment till May 1991. Leon's Don't Pay a Cent event. Now what are you waiting for?
Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks?
At IKEA, we put our furniture through 3 years of everyday home use in just 1 year.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
We call our quality testing Mobile Facta. Each item has to pass the test before it wears the Mobile Facta label.
Mom, can I have a cookie? Mom, can I have a cookie? Mom, can I have a cookie?
IKEA, Swedish for common sense.
You're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt.
At Giant Carpet, we stand behind everything we sell with a lifetime guarantee on installation, which means that if anything ever goes wrong with your carpet, we'll fix it, and no one will have to pay for it.
And now it's time to meet our studio guest. He's famous as an actor, writer, director, and raconteur, but why is there a conspiracy of silence over his contribution to architecture, nuclear physics, open-heart surgery, and horse breeding? Why is he himself so reticent on the subject of the 47 aircraft he shot down during the Battle of Britain, several of which belong to the enemy? Why does the world not know that he holds the office of president of 7 different South American countries, 2 of which are not presently at war with each other? Perhaps tonight we will plumb the secret of this essentially private person and answer the question why the man entitled to call himself Field Admiral the Count Balthasar der Vorsprung durch Technik is content to be introduced as merely Peter Ustinov. Peter, you've just stepped off the Orient Express. Any murders?
How could you tell?
Well, I was informed by my trained researchers that you had come here by Orient Express. Any murders on the train this time, were there?
I don't think it stays still enough, long enough, for there to be any efficient murders. Because any potential corpse is moving all the time.
You mean it does a bit of that, does it?
Yes, it does. But otherwise, it's extremely comfortable and sumptuous.
Well, some say the trains in this country are too. They're crazy, of course, if they do. Do you travel much by train in this country?
No, not very much. I used to travel up to Dundee on the night train when I was the rector there. And that had an extraordinary thing. On the bedpan, there was a little notice in the very old days. And I've always been fascinated by how they came about this formula. There must have been an extraordinary, several board meetings about it. It said on the bedpan, passengers are reminded that these receptacles were not designed to receive solids. The board meetings must have gone on for hours. I think we can be more explicit, at the same time not quite as suggestive. Well,
since we last spoke, I know you've been back to my country, Australia. Did you find the natives friendly?
Yes. In fact, my wife and I have a little double act which we do because we meet elderly Australians who travel a great deal these days. And she's a good sport. She plays this game with me. It's very short. I say to her, "You want to go back to Australia?" She says, "No." I say, "What's the matter? You want to stay here?" She says, "Yeah." I say, "You're a chatterbox, aren't you?"
You've ever found yourself in Skippy territory when you've been in Australia?
Yes, I was there about 30 years ago doing a film called The Sundowners, and they had a press reception, and a drunken journalist came over to me looking for trouble, of which there are not a few, or in those days there were quite a lot of them. And he was obviously trying to pick a quarrel. He was leaning into one side, and he said to me, "I suppose you think ill of us because we're all descended from convicts." I said, "No, I'm far more worried by the fact that some of you must be descended from warders." He didn't understand that and went off to quarrel with someone else. He must have been one of them.
Yeah. They can usually get quite violent when they don't understand something.
Yes, right.
This was in the vicinity of the town called Iron Knob. Iron Knob.
Yes, this is I remember the girl. Now Australian wine is famous the world over and is awfully good. But in those days it was still in its infancy, and in Iron Knob, I don't remember if it was Iron Knob or Whyalla, which is not far away in South Australia, in the hotel still had hitching posts for horses, like John Wayne hotels. And the girl came up and suggested that we drank Hock-type table burgundy. And our cameraman went out ahead of us on a recce. He went into the hotel and asked for a room. They said, "No, well, we only got double rooms." And he thought, well, the film company is paying for it, why not? "All right, I'll take a double room." And he went to sleep, and he woke up in the middle of the night to see a naked man just struggling into pajamas. And he said, "Excuse me, I think this is my room." The man said, "No, it's your bed and this is my bed, this is our room." He didn't realize what a double room meant.
Andrew Clark, the actor, he's got that marvellous Australian thing going where you don't really know whether he's setting you up until later, do you?
That's
But
right.
he seems to have no qualms about eating poor Skippy. Have you ever tasted kangaroo yourself?
I have on one misguided occasion. I'm not very carnivorous by nature, and I was forced to out of politeness. You know, it's the shake and the eye of the sheep. It's that sort of situation. It was forced into my mouth. I felt I had Clapham Junction in my mouth. A mass of rails, and it's terrifying. And I was forced to go on a kangaroo shoot, which I hate the whole idea, but out of a sense of fraternity I went. Thank God we found not a single kangaroo. I came back with a rabbit which had been run over by a jeep. In triumph, you know, the hunter's return. No, it was, I didn't like it. Do you know the story which I found in Tasmania, and which is in all the guidebooks, but it seems to me such a funny story that I'm surprised nobody seems to know it, of the origin of the word kangaroo? Well, Captain Cook landed, as you know, in Australia, and was making little sketches of things he saw, and suddenly he saw his first kangaroo. And Captain Cook was amazed. And he saw an elderly Aboriginal sitting on a rock, I suppose making a boomerang or whatever, whittling away at a boomerang. He went up to him and said, "Excuse me, what is that?" That thing. And the Aboriginal said to him, "Kangaroo!" And it entered our language. And only recently have there been researchers into the whole Aboriginal language, and they found out that kangaroo means, I don't know.
Australia's changing all the time. Sonny Hammond's grown up, and I hear there even moves afoot to say goodbye to the royal family.
Yeah, but I think countries grow up, and I mean, I think the royal family is really, on the whole, very abused, because I can't think of any family in its right mind who would accept that sort of job. Yeah. You have to inherit it, otherwise how are you going to do it? I don't know. I mean, my hat goes off to them. Well, it goes off in any case, because that's what you're supposed to do. For much better reasons than just that. I think they're extraordinary.
Yeah. I suppose always the real argument against monarchy is the humanitarian one, that it's an inhuman job to wish on somebody who would not give them a choice. They have to do it. But they do come in for a lot of press attention in this country, a lot.
Oh, yes, but if you look at it in the 1815s, 1820s, the attacks on the royal family at that time were much, much more vitriolic than they are now. They were incredible, things that the Prince Regent and George IV had to go through, and the trial of Queen Caroline, which is one of the delights. There are copies around which are, I don't think they're pirated, but they're taken down in shorthand from the House of Lords, where the Queen was, she was on trial for having been unfaithful to the King and gone to Italy on holiday. And one of the great orators of the period, I can't remember now, I think it was Burke, said to her said to an Italian sea captain who was in charge of their honeymoon boat, which was plying its trade, said, "Did you notice where did you see Her Majesty and her Italian paramour?" "Well, there was sometimes below the deck, if the weather was bad, and sometime when the sun was shining, they was on the deck." "I see. And where on the deck would they be in the event of good weather?" "They would be either strolling or they would be sitting on a capstan. Either he was on her lap or she was on his lap." "Did you see nothing unqueenly in her behavior?" And he said, "No, nothing." "What were they doing on the capstan?" "Sometimes he was reading the poetry to her, and sometimes she was reading the poetry to him. And sometimes when they got no more poems, they was kissing one another." "And you say that you see nothing unqueenly in her behavior?" And the Italian sea captain said, "No, why? It was a summer."
London had a big sensation here with the Japanese sumo wrestlers. They've stopped fighting now. They've all gone off. But it was a huge hit. Are you a devotee of this sport?
Well, I watch it not with envy, but with a kind of relief. Take that before I come and get you. Yeah. I think it's I was in the big man. I sometimes steal into the big man's shop here in order to buy small articles of clothing, you understand. And they told me that the sumo wrestlers had been in there in a body, and that they found on occasion everything to be slightly too large for them. So it's a real big man's shop. It's worth it noting. Well, I go in there to improve my morale because nothing fits me.
They actually don't wear a lot when they're in the ring. It's the that, isn't it?
Yes, with the thing sticking out. Do they have those?
Yeah, I don't quite know what
well,
they are.
They get very good shortwave reception on them. During the fight, they can get the baseball scores.
Has it occurred to you it must be a pretty efficient sort of thong arrangement they've got round there?
It has occurred to me, yes, quite frankly.
There's a lot of sudden sideways pressure, and you would think that...
Well, the ballast keeps moving. It's like a hold of a big ship. Yes. Terrible. What I can't understand, having been to Japan several times now, is if they stay at Japanese inns or country cottages, how can they get in there? Because I find it absolutely impossible. First of all, the phone is always on the floor, and they're not very patient. It rings twice and it's finished. So you dive onto the floor. My knees were marked with tatami matting for months afterwards. I had corrugated knees. I fell out of bed once, 2 inches. I don't know what they do, these people, because they're much too small for me.
Well, they're pretty flexible.
I took a bath in there, you know, and the bath is a kind of square, which is very deep, but very, very small. And I stood in the bath and thanked heaven that I was alone for a minute, and suddenly the bath mat got up. It was an old lady, I hadn't noticed her. And she held a kimono, which I then got into, and it came to here on both sides. So my heart went out to the sumo wrestlers.
There's a lot of, I think one of the attractions of sumo is there's a lot of ritual, sacred ritual, as there is throughout Japanese life, isn't there? It's
yes.
Very formal.
Well, it's not only ritual. I mean, I took my wife last time. I had to make a speech on behalf of the High Commissioner of Refugees, who was taken ill. So I went to Tokyo, and we were told very early the next morning we'd have to go to Osaka, where the meeting was taking place. And they told us in the hotel, we must leave the hotel at 9 sharp. That means you've got to be in hall with all your luggage at 8:51. That means on view of fact you're on 16th floor. You have to be at top of elevator with a luggage at 8:44. That means you'll have to read the room at 8:39. That means we give you a call at 8:34 telling you you've got 5-minute rest. Well, my wife said, I can't bear it, these fractions of minutes and things. I said, well, we'll get our own back somehow. Well, we got to Osaka, and they said to me, we have set aside a 45 minutes for your speech. I said, I can't talk about the plight of refugees for 45 minutes. It's going to lose all its punch, all its urgency. They said, oh. We set aside 45 minutes for your speech. Well, I spoke for 26 minutes. I didn't know they were 19 minutes behind schedule, and I put them right back on. They said, how you know?
I wish we could go on forever, but I have to say thank you very much, Peter Ustinov. We had to stop there because following the stunning news this week that the Soviet Union's dreaded KGB has been disbanded, we've just heard what the British Secret Service is going to do instead of fighting the KGB or, in some cases, joining it. Yes, James Bond has gone into a new line of business, show business. He's begun a new career in a Bogota nightclub, appearing under the name of James Bondinas, 007 license to dance. He's really showing them what British men are made of. So while Bogota Cafe Society sips its margaritas in awestruck silence, we say adios from London. Come in, Bogota, and take it away, James Bondinas.
Saturday Night Clive next week, the equally irrepressible Ruby Wax.
Sunday on BBC1, and at 6:40 Songs of Praise goes down under to make a neighbourly visit to Melbourne. Then at 7:15...
Look, I don't wish to dwell on it, dear, but it's always been a principle of mine that bathrooms should be seen and not heard.
Trouble for the trainer at 7:45.
I am not having the yard interfered with.
£35,000.
What would it involve?
At 8:35, the well-bred Boswells with sauce. After the news, James Fox stars in A Question of Attribution.
So what were you talking about? Well, I was talking about art. I'm not sure that she was.
Heart of the Matter at 10:30 examines the rights of children to be seen and heard. Sunday on BBC1.
BBC 2 continues its coverage of the first British ranking snooker tournament of the season, the Grand Prix at the Hexagon Reading, in just under 20 minutes. We on 1 go into the small hours with 2 films. At 12:10, a dark comedy from New Zealand finds bereaved brothers Arthur and Jimmy having to return their dead father home in order to collect the inheritance. But there are no natural causes now on BBC1. It's all up to Raymond Chandler's PI Philip Marlowe to investigate in Michael Winner's star-studded remake of The Big Sleep.